Today we'll be reading Susan B. Anthony, Champion of Women's Rights, the chapter called First Day. When Susan awoke the next morning, she couldn't think for a moment where she was. The bed was strange. So were the pictures on the wall. So were the trees outside the window. Was she dreaming? Just then, Grandma awakened. She looked puzzled, too. Somewhere outside, a rooster crowed. There came a little boy's whistle. Then suddenly, Susan remembered. "We're in the McLean home in Battenville," she said. "Yes," Grandma answered. "That must be Aaron whistling. He's probably driving his grandmother's cow out to pasture." "Come on," said Susan, jumping out of bed. "I want to see what outdoors looks like." Grandma was as eager as her sister. They had never dressed more quickly. But when they reached the hall, breakfast smells were coming up the steep stairs. Susan sniffed. Fried ham and pancakes. Grandma sniffed, too. And it might be hasty pudding, too. I wouldn't be surprised if Mrs. McLean is fixing company breakfast. Maybe, Susan decided, we better not go out just yet. We'll go out as soon as breakfast is over. After breakfast, though, Mother had other ideas. We'll go over to the rooms on our side of the house and start getting things unpacked and settled right away. It doesn't make any difference where we live, Susan grumbled to Grandma. It's always work, work, work. But even when she grumbled, Susan never did anything halfway. Mother herself couldn't have dusted or rubbed or scrubbed any harder than she did. Susan was pleased to see the big kitchen lose its empty look. They unpacked their pots and pans and hung them over the fireplace. They unrolled their rag rugs. They brought in their tables and chairs. "Why," said Susan, "it looks like home already." Mother was pleased. "I think so, too. Now let's start on the upstairs." Looking around. By afternoon, the girls' work was finished. "You still have an hour or two before supper," Mother told them. "You can run along now and see if you like it outside as well as you do in." They stepped through a slide door into a little yard. Hannah was still too small to be much help with the work. She had been out there playing for some time. Another girl was with her. "This is Abigail," Hannah told her sisters. Everybody calls her Abby. She is 6 years old, just like Susan. She lives in the white house up the street. Abby looked at them shyly. Susan felt shy, too. She hadn't met new girls very often. "We're making dandelion chains," Hannah said. "You can make some if you want to." "Not now," Grandma told her. "We want to look around." Abby stood up, spilling the dandelions from her lap. "I'll go with you," she said. "I can show you things." Hannah jumped up, too. "I'm coming along." They followed a path around the side of the house to the street in front. "Battenville certainly is on the side of a steep hill," said Susan. "The road goes up. The road goes down. Doesn't it ever go straight along?" Abby shook her head. "The river doesn't either. Can't you hear it rushing over the stones?" They could indeed. "That must be where the mill is," said Susan. "Let's go there." It was only a short way to the big open gates which led to the new mill. Susan had never seen such a long, large building before. "Goodness," she cried. "It makes the old one back home look like a baby. It doesn't seem as if there could be enough cotton in the world to keep it busy." "And where will Father ever find enough girls to work in it?" Grandma asked. "You don't need to worry about that," Abby said. "He'll find more than he can hire. It's much easier for a girl to work 12 hours a day in the mills than to do all the cooking and cleaning and weaving she'd have to do at home. Then, too, she wouldn't be paid a cent at home, and your father will give her $1.50 a week besides her board." Susan thought how wonderful it would be to have $1.50 all her own. She had never had more than a halfpenny apiece, and not even that very often. "I'd like to work in the mills," she said. "Nonsense. What would you buy if you had $1.50 all your own?" Abby asked. Then they all began to talk at once. Before they could make up their minds, Hannah interrupted. "Look, coming up the hill." They all looked. Up the steep road came 3 great wagons, drawn by oxen even bigger than Grandfather Anthony's. The wagons were heavily loaded. The oxen moved very slowly. The girls forgot all about what they would buy. "There are the things for Father's store," Susan shouted. "Let's go watch them unload." They rushed down to the new brick store where Father and Judge McLean stood waiting for the wagons.